What's going on, everybody? Staff Sergeant Eckert, and today, what are we gonna do? What's going on, everybody? Staff Sergeant Eckert here. Today I'm gonna be teaching you all how to do a dragon flag. All right, so if you didn't look at the intro part of the video where it's demonstrating a dragon flag, all a dragon flag is a way to challenge your core and your upper body in a very controlled manner. So I'm just gonna demonstrate one real quick. You just lay back on the bench, and you can do this on the ground too if you have a ledge or something to hold your hands on, but it's very uncomfortable on the bones of your back. So I suggest using some sort of padded bench if you can. But if you have the floor and that's all you have is and a door frame, I've done them on there, they're just very uncomfortable. And you more of like shy away from the pain than you do actually get a good core exercise out of it. So anyway, this is what a dragon flag looks like. Let's get into it. Okay, so that's the basics of what a dragon flag looks like. It's suspended core training with one spot of control, so you're holding on to the back of the bench here, and I want to break that down as to how you get into the position and what muscles are really being used and what's actually predominantly being used, which in my opinion is not your core, it's more of your upper body. So let's get into that. I'm going to try to break this into 3 sections, and it's just the how to set up for it, what muscles are engaging, and what you should be looking for, and tips really to just strengthen your body to get in the best position possible for this, because it is a very open position, so injury can happen, so be very careful when doing this. If you're not an advanced core exerciser, I wouldn't suggest starting off with this one. Strengthen your core first. I made a video about that prior to this one, and yeah, I would recommend looking at that video first, doing some groundwork, and then getting into more advanced stuff. This is more for people that are like bored and really strong already and they want to improve their game a little bit. Number 1, we're going to get into how to get into the position for this. So all you're going to be doing is laying back on the bench. You kind of saw me do it in the example, but I want to break some stuff down for you. The areas, we'll save that for step 2. Step 2 is going to be breaking down what areas are going to be involved. But the way you're going to set up for this is you're going to lay down on the bench, just a natural, let your legs hang off the edge, and you want to scoot your body back to the point where your head is pretty much literally in parallel or flush with the top of the bench. And you also want to make sure you have a very strong bench. Like this is a very, I don't know if you call it industrial strong bench, because I've had benches before where I literally ripped the cushioning off. So just make sure this is actually pretty tough or has like some sort of plate underneath it, and it's just going to withstand the angle of movement that you're putting on it, because it's a lot of stress in this area. But what you want to do is you want to take your hands and put them on the back of the bench, like you're going to do like some sort of roll off the back. All right, so you're cupping your hands like this and squeezing onto that cushioning, or squeezing on right behind your head. I like to take my arms, and when I'm up like this, I like to take my arms and almost pinch my head into place, because I don't like my head moving around. It's a lot of pressure that goes into your head. You don't want to be like flexing into it and then have your head also contract with like your neck muscles and stuff. You want to just keep your head as stationary as possible. So grab onto the back of the bench and kind of roll your forearms on the top of your head, so you stay nice and locked, and it's really going to flex all this area, but I'll get into that in step 2. So yeah, the setup. Lay back, got our hands on the bench, our head is flush with the back of the bench, and we're pinching our head. And what you want to do is you want to roll your back, like you're going to flip off the bench, but you're going to aim your feet at the ceiling. So you're going to kick your feet up. You can use a little momentum, and then once you're up, so we'll start at the bottom position. You get in that position, head flush with the bench, pinch your head, roll up, and then point your feet to the ceiling, and that's going to be your starting position, right? And then you're going to start lowering down. Here's the tricky part. This is what people don't understand who have never done these before or have been doing them improperly. This is a core exercise, but it's also an upper body exercise. So this is step 2, basically. Tip number 2, or informational section number 2. Number 2 is it's more stress on my elbow region, so the flexion on my elbow holding this isometric contraction, than it is my core. So you're going to have a strong core to lower down safely, but you're going to have extremely strong arms to hold yourself in that angled position. Because if you think about how you're lowering yourself down, all the stress is basically right here. You're just contracting your core to stay as parallel as possible, or even like a bent dragon back. Bruce Lee really made those popular. But yes, you're going to have to pull as hard as you freaking can. That's majority of the stress. It's the pulling portion. So it may not look like it, but I am pulling down and pulling my body back up. It is not my core flexing me back up. My core is just holding that position, holding me in a straight line right here, and my arms are doing all of the work to pull me back up and down. So I want you to focus on this region, your elbow region, and it's actually the back. So it's pretty much the whole elbow joint region that's going to be straining right here. It's going to be flexing your core in an open position. So let's stand up. Go ahead and just tighten your core here. That's what you want. You want to stay in that position, maybe even a little bit arched back here, and stay in that open position. You're not going to be curling in, because it's going to cause your legs to come up and you're going to have a bend in your body. You want to keep as straight as possible. So again, really focusing on your arms here. You'll feel it when you get into that position. You're going to be nice and high in the air. You're going to have no stress on your body. And then all of a sudden, when you start to lower down very slowly, and then the more closer to parallel with the bench you're going to get before your butt touches the bench, you're going to feel this extreme tension on your body, and especially on your arms. So it's one of those things, I can tell you all about it, but unless you try it, you're not going to really understand. So I'll show you what that looks like, or how I suggest you should try it. So grab onto the bench, get in that nice form, roll back, kick up, and then make sure your body's nice and straight. And this isn't straight. It may feel straight, but it's not. It's still that curved, bent position. So we're going to kick our hips forward, keep them in line with our feet, and then lower down. Lower, 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 lower. And it's extremely tense on my arms right now. It's still tense on my core because I'm preventing my feet from falling forward and arching my back. So I'm tensing right here and tensing my obliques and using pretty much everything I can to stabilize that isometric contraction. Even my lower back's engaged. That's why it's such a great core workout. But my arms are literally pulling with all of my might to keep my body in that position the entire time. So that's the eccentric phase of the dragon flag. It's the coming up and then lowering down. Where it gets extremely hard, or the hardest part, is right before you touch the bench, or I wouldn't even suggest touching the bench if you're pretty good at these. Right before you're about to touch the bench, pause for a second and then reel yourself back in. And then that's a full dragon flag when you come all the way back up to that position. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to show you again what it looks like. We're going to grab here, pinch the head, roll back, kick up, and then lower down, lower down, lower down, and then here, back up, lower down, back up. And you can hear it in my voice that it is so strenuous to get your body in that position and pull yourself back up that it's hard for me to talk because my core is so contracted. You've been there before if you've ever done a core workout, but this is like to an extreme extent. So yeah, those are the predominant areas I want you to focus on. Keeping that flexed open core. If you want to involve a little bit of lower back extension, which is that's extreme. When I'm talking about a little bit, just to push your hips into position and flex in that open core, but stay in that flexed core position. And then, again, really focus on strengthening, and you can use strength training techniques, lift dumbbells, do pull-ups, work on your hand strength, but really strengthen this area, because this is where a lot of people will develop tendonitis if they're weak, especially in their grip strength, because they're overcompensating in this area. I have a really strong grip strength, so I tend to not get tendonitis in my elbows because my forearms are taking majority of the strain when I'm pulling. And so I can do a lot of pull exercises. I can do dragon flags for a long time without getting that tendon inflammation. But a lot of that starts with having weak hands, so make sure you're training your grip strength. Okay, so tip number 3, or informational section number 3, are just kind of some tips and tricks to get stronger at these, I guess you could say. Which basically means I'm just going to show you a couple of variations that are going to be easier for you to start off and get you in the mindset of, oh shit, I'm gonna have to lower down. So a couple variations. Obviously, if 2 feet are forward, it's gonna be pretty heavy, especially while I'm wearing boots. It's gonna be extremely heavy on my body, and it just makes the dragon flag much harder. So what we can do is we can do variations. So a variation might be coming up, and you can do this however you want, whatever feels easiest to you, but as long as we're staying in the same position as a dragon flag, or as best we can as a dragon flag, to mimic that strengthening and that position, because you just want to get stronger in that. You don't want to do something totally off topic. You want to stay in that position as long as you can, or as close as you can. And so what we can do is we can do single leg dragon flags. So I always recommend starting in the eccentric phase, because that puts a nice load on your abs first. That way, that sounds bad. It puts a nice load on your abs first. That way you're not concentrically pulling up and have the risk of pulling a muscle in your abs right off the bat. If you're not feeling it one day, your abs will just fall to the end of the bench and you'll be done. But if you try to pull with all that weight upwards, you risk pulling a muscle in one of your abs. So again, we're gonna get in that starting position, feet towards the ceiling. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stick out one foot instead. And that actually makes the dragon flag so much easier. So you can do this, come up to the top, switch to the top. You can do any variation you want. You can even do like half dragon flags, I guess you could say. These are actually more intense than those lower leg ones. You can do little kickouts in certain areas. So I'll do one at like 75%, try to do 50%, and then 90. And it's really all focusing on the same thing, which is the end result is you want to make that dragon flag look really pretty, because in the end it's a style ab workout. You can train abs, you can get strong as steel abs, pretty much so many unlimited amount of ways. But the dragon flag appealed to me, and it appeals to a lot of people, because the badass Bruce Lee is the one who kind of introduced that to the world in a really cool way. And you're like, dang, I want to be like that guy. And that's how I got introduced to it. I saw Bruce Lee doing it and I was like, dang, I really want to do those. And so I started working on them, started doing different variations. And you can work, the progression that I would work is do ground core first, just body weight, Russian twists, all that easy stuff. Go check out the video that I made that says how to train bulletproof abs. That'll break down basically the basics of core and how to train a really strong core. And then it also progresses you into using weights. So you can start using weights once you get really good at that. And then I would say this is like the most advanced level. And what I tend to do, fitness is amazing because you can always progress. Once I got really good at dragon flags, I started to put a medicine ball between my feet, do weighted dragon flags. I would take one arm off this bench, hold one arm, weighted, and dragon flag. And that's about as intense as I've ever done before, because that's so much stress on one arm and your core at the same time, because you're also twisting because you're off balance with one arm, that I don't know, that's just the furthest I've ever been with it. If you guys come up with something even cooler than that, let me know. But if you all like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm gonna keep doing these cool ab workouts. And anyway, that's all I got for y'all today. Take care.